Chicago Cubs going to the World Series. All right, I had to get that out. All right, got Brandon Styles and Lucas Lahman with me. We're obviously talking Cubs World Series. The curse is officially over. 71 years long, but finally here. Back to the Future 2. It was only 1 year off from predicting it, so I'm just saying. So yeah, let's dive into it. Talking World Series, Cubs, Indians, as we all know. Again, I got Brandon Styles and Lucas Lahman with me, two of the biggest Cubs fans that I know, most knowledgeable. So definitely appreciate you coming on, fellas.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, so I guess just to start, Lucas, we watched Game 1 together of the NLDS, that 1-0 barn burner. But what were your thoughts, over that series with the Giants?
Well, I thought, our pitching was pretty good. Obviously, Lester was lights out in Game 1. And our hitting kind of struggled like it did against the Dodgers, but they came up with the clutch hits at the right time. Obviously, Game 4, the clincher with the ninth inning dramatics, but our pitching was solid like you would expect. Our bullpen was decent. Our defense was outstanding like it usually is. So pretty much what I expected the Cubs to do.
About that late inning heroics. Brendan, what do you got?
On the NLDS or the CS?
Yeah, the DS against San Fran.
Okay. Yeah, so, Lucas touched on Game 1 and how Lester was pretty much lights out. And then, of course, Javi hit the home run in the 8th off Cueto. Game 3, it looked like it was there for the taking. You had Jake Arrieta hit a home run, and you're sitting there thinking, okay, this is going to be a sweep. And then everything just kind of fell apart in the 8th inning with the bullpen. And ends up going 13 innings. I was down in Florida when this happened. I was there for a cousin's wedding the weekend before. And, the game gets over at 1:45 here in Iowa, so it's 2:45 there. So, yeah, that was a crazy night. And then the next night, it looked like you're sitting there thinking, oh, God, it's going to go to Game 5 at Wrigley, and everybody's going to be all nervous and tense, and what's going to happen? And then suddenly that 9th inning, just everything goes according to plan there in the 9th, and they find a way to win it in 4 games. And, I feel like that momentum carried over at least for the start of the NLCS against LA, and they were able to take Game 1. Then they kind of lost some of that mojo, and then suddenly they got it going again in Game 4, and ever since then they haven't really looked back. So this has definitely been an exciting month here, and hopefully it stays exciting here for at least one more week.
Yeah, I remember probably, a month or two ago, not 2 months, maybe a month ago, when we were talking right before the playoffs had started, and I was just like, okay, so we got Rizzo, we got Bryant. Obviously, those are our 2 money makers at the plate, but I'd only watched probably 10, 15 games. I didn't watch them all year, and I was like, okay, thinking they were going to be batting, like 315, 320, and I was like, man, it's only 294. And I remember you saying, like, just whenever they need to play, there's just always somebody different that's coming up to make a play late in the games, and it's like that transpired in the regular season with 103 wins, and then in the playoffs as well. Just the 8th inning, we just seemed to just catch fire.
Right, and that's the thing too. You touched on it with this playoff run. One night it's Javi Baez hitting a home run. Another night it's Miguel Montero pinch hitting and he's hitting a grand slam. Another night, you have Chris Bryant hitting a home run to tie a game in San Francisco, Game 3. You have Addison Russell finally getting it going in Game 4, and then he suddenly just starts going on a tear. You have Dexter Fowler coming up with timely hits. Really, just everybody across the board has found a way to contribute, and it's really encouraging to see. And now you see this news potentially, or I guess it's not even potentially now, with Kyle Schwarber.
Official.
Now, if he is taking it back to the World Series and playing him as a DH, how much of a role is he going to have? What is he going to be adding in terms of those contributions that we're talking about this team getting from various people? Is he going to be another name on that list? So it's definitely been that to me has been the fun part about watching this team, not just this postseason, but as you said, this entire year.
Lucas, what do you think about Schwarber coming on for Game 1? I mean, he hasn't played since, I want to say he got hurt in the 2nd game. So, I mean, he hasn't played in 6 months. Obviously, he's been taking, some swings with minor leagues, and then I'm sure they've had him worked pretty heavily in practice. But what are your initial thoughts on that?
Well, I think he played 2 Arizona League games in the last couple of days, and that sounds about, it. The doctors cleared him to run and hit, so obviously he's not going to play the field, but the front office obviously knows what they're doing. If they want to take this risk. The thing that worries me, if you hurt him again, he could miss next year too, but they must see something. It sounds crazy to come back 6 months after an ACL. And wasn't tearing one myself, I know what it's like. So, I mean,
wasn't it an ACL and like an LCL?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And real quickly, if I can just add to that, I think that the fact that they're using him, you mentioned that they cleared him for running and hitting. The fact that they're using him as a DH, this is where the fact that the American League has a DH really comes in handy, because with him playing that role, that's all you really need him to do is hit and run.
Yep.
And and then obviously when the series is back at Wrigley Field, then you're just relying on him as a pinch hitter. So again, if he can contribute in any way, that's a huge positive. And being able to play the role of a DH, it's not like he's taking the spot from anybody in theory, because you still have everybody that's playing typically in everyday positions. They're still going to be all in the lineup anyway.
Rose up. You guys still there?
Yep.
All right, froze up. So let's say just playing devil's advocate. So obviously it is official. He's going to DH game 1. But if it's something to where, say he struggles at the plate game 1, is there, who would you go with for DH for game 2? Lucas?
I guess it depends on who's pitching for the Indians. I know Kluber's got game 1. I think Bauer, it all depends on if his finger's healed up. So
a drone?
I guess it's a drone. It's a pitching matchup at that point, I would assume. But even if he struggles, I bet they'd throw him back out there. I mean, he's got much potential to change a game. Over who would you throw in there? I mean, Soler or
Harris looked good, but I mean, he's probably going to be playing, so
yeah, he'll get his time in there.
See, well, I would say probably either Soler or Contreras, just because you, at least with the catching situation, you got John Lester pitching tomorrow night, so David Ross is going to be behind the plate, and then with Arrieta pitching game 2, Miggy's going to be behind the plate. So unless they're looking at playing Contreras in the outfield, then really the only way you could use him is as a DH or as a pinch hitter.
Yeah, and the really funny thing, just blows my mind that Schwarber is the Cubs' all-time leading postseason home run hitter. Like,
yeah,
what? How is that even like a thing? But
yeah,
I mean, I guess when you got that title, you get the benefit of the doubt to come back off 6 months and swing big sticks. So,
well, can't forget Soler played great in the postseason last year. I mean, he was on a tear too, but he hasn't got much time this year. He's been injured.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, until that Met series, God, that was brutal. And honestly, for the first, oh gosh, I mean, until our bats really woke up, and it was a little bit streaky, but there for a while, I was just like, okay, like, please don't be like last year where we just go ice cold. And I think at one point Rizzo was like 1 for 22, and I think at one point the only person that was doing anything was Bryant, and then obviously Rizzo finally broke out of it. He had that walk to start off when he scored that 4-run inning. What was that, game 3?
I think it was game 4.
Game 4? Okay.
Game 3 they lost.
Okay, that's the one that was the one where Arrieta homered off of Baumgartner. I totally.
Okay, you're talking about the DS. I'm sorry, I thought you were talking about the LA series.
Nah, I'm all over the place, but yeah, it seems like they pulled it together, and then obviously in the CS when Kershaw came in, I mean, the first time it's Kershaw, so we struggled the first time seeing him, but then it all came together. I mean, Rizzo got hot, Fowler was scorching hot and lead it off. I think the last 2 games against the Dodgers got on base and scored a run. So just, I mean, what are you guys expecting here, in this World Series coming off the, just positive momentum and just rhythm that we've had.
I think as far as tomorrow's concerned, really, I look at it like this with Cleveland. They have an excellent bullpen, and Kluber is a great pitcher. But you got Bauer hurt, and then you have the rest of the rotation. They've been dealing with some injuries. I feel like outside of Kluber, the Cubs have a huge advantage in pitching in this series. And then you throw in the fact that Lester's going to be pitching head-to-head against Kluber in all likelihood the 2 times they go head-to-head, unless Cleveland goes to the 3-man rotation. To me, it seems like this is setting up really nicely for the Cubs. And we were just talking about Schwarber. I think the fact that you have a DH here, I know the Cubs don't play with one being in the National League, but I think this is actually going to be to their benefit because it just gives them more power in the lineup than they would have had otherwise. So to me, I feel like this is setting up for the Cubs to win. I don't think it's going to be a sweep necessarily, but I could see this being a 6, maybe even a 5-game series. And I think when it's all said and done, we're going to be talking about this team winning a World Series for the first time since 1908.
I would take that. Lucas, what about you? What are you thinking for this series?
No, I agree big time. I mean, our pitching, we got the edge on pitching. The thing that worries me is their base running. They stole a lot of bases, especially against Lester. But I think our bats, our bats against their pitching, I think we're going to have the upper hand there. Our bullpen's good enough. We're going to hear a ton about Andrew Miller, obviously, which we should. But, I think we have, I would say Cubs in 6. A little biased, obviously, but I think our lineup's too consistent, especially if they decide to take Heyward out, which that's another topic to itself. But, I see the Cubs dominating.
Well, you can go ahead and expand on that. So we did that for Game 6 and took them out, and obviously that worked because we were on fire. So is that something that you would stay with here throughout the remainder, or the start and the remainder of the World Series?
To me, his swing is just bad right now. He can't contribute in any way. I mean, he's good in the field, obviously, but I think Almora could take his spot. He could play just as well, and I would assume he could hit a little better, in my opinion. But Madden's got him in there for a reason. So,
and I think the one thing that's going to actually benefit Heyward in this series is the fact that Cleveland, or at least most of Cleveland's pitchers aside from Miller, are right-handed. And I think that will definitely help him when he's up at the plate. And I would imagine it would help somebody like Anthony Rizzo, too, in terms of being able to continue the hot wave that he's been on these last few games.
Yeah, that's something that, with Jason Heyward, I always say this, but I can't help it. That first, they say like the first impression is kind of like the lasting impression. And that's how I am with Heyward. Like, for whatever reason, I can't get the image of him just crushing his first at bat against Zambrano. And like, I just have that in my head, like, okay, he's going to develop into this just slugging superstar. And last year with St. Louis, he only had like 20-some home runs. This year, what was it, 8 or 7?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I'm all for, obviously if he's cold, don't play him. But I just have it in my head that his swing looks good, but I don't know the mechanics of it, but something's just off. So, I don't know. I'd probably be fine, like you said, pulling him here for a couple games and just kind of seeing, he's good in the field, but where do you break even between going, 2 for whatever it was, 20 something? And I mean, even what game was it where he had that bunt? It was just a god awful bunt that went right to second, and then we got lucky and they threw that error to first.
Game 4, I believe.
4? Okay. Yeah, because that's when we put up that like 4 or 5 run inning, and it's just like, I'll take it, but it's like, man, like, it's just
should have been a double play.
Yeah, and I want to say when that happened, that would have been the end of the inning if it was. So, yeah, I'm probably with you guys. Set him down, but just for some reason in the back of my head, I just have this thought that he's just going to be some fantastic slugger, which isn't the case. So, all right, so we talked about Schwarber, Heyward, Arrieta. That was another thing that I wanted to touch on. So, beginning of the year, I mean, obviously he's continuing to just dominate on the mound. And then the second half kind of like slipped up. I was curious what your guys' impressions were, and if that's something that is, I mean, he got rocked pretty bad. I want to say, I can't remember which start it was, but he didn't look too hot in the playoffs. So I was kind of curious to get your guys' impressions on that.
Well, I thought he looked okay against San Francisco. Obviously, his last start against LA, not so much. But to me, it's not as big of an issue right now because of the fact that you had a guy like Hendricks emerge this year, and then Lester's been the same. I think if this is something where you didn't have Kyle Hendricks emerging and you had Lackey only being able to provide you what he has, then I think this would be a huge concern because, well, for one thing, I don't think this team would still be playing right now. But two, I just think that you'd be going back to the same spot you were in a year ago where you basically were relying on two arms, and then if they don't come through for you, then you're in trouble. As far as Arrieta, I think he's fine. I think he'll be fine. The key here is if you could get a quality start out of him in game 2. He's pitching that game because they're going to give Hendricks his normal rest, and that'll allow him to pitch at Wrigley. And, if he gets into a comfort zone in game 2, and then let's say it does go to a game 6 and the Cubs are up 3-2, I think he's definitely a guy I would want to have on the mound in a closeout situation.
What do you got?
No, I agree. I think people are overreacting on Arrieta. His batting average against this year was insanely low. He started walking guys, and his command got a little crazy, and then he'd give up a home run, or he'd have, fifth inning, he'd give up a 4 spot. But before that, he wasn't giving up runs. He just had his bad innings here and there. And like I said, his walks are what really hurt him. But yeah, if you can get a quality start, keep the walks down, I think he'll be just fine, like Brandon was saying.
All right, so final word. What are you guys' predictions for the series? Brendan, I think you touched on it earlier, but you're actually, real quick, I want you to tell us a little bit about, you're going to be going to Chicago, not to the game, but you're just going to be in Chicago for the World Series, correct?
Oh, yeah. No, this is one of those things, as far as I'm concerned, this could be once in a lifetime. And given the magnitude of it all, it just feels like one of those things that you want to be able to say you were there.
Yep.
So I'm going in with a buddy of mine here. We've been discussing this ever since Saturday night. I'm going in with one friend on Thursday night. We're crashing at his sister's place. Then I'm going to I have another friend in Chicago I'll be staying with over the weekend. And then, just going into Wrigleyville, just taking the scene in. And, it's just to give you guys an idea how crazy it is. Last Saturday, I read that there were 300,000 people in Wrigleyville just outside on the streets after the Cubs won the pennant against the Dodgers. And then, so you factor in that there's going to be at least that many people there Friday, Saturday, Sunday night, if not more, because you're going to have people from all over the world coming in for this. And the other thing, too, is just in light of that, in that area are charging a ridiculous amount of cover just to get in, just so that way you can be there. I got a feeling it's going to be one of those things that the lines are going to be ridiculously long. You're going to have people basically at a standstill from Waveland to Sheffield. But again, it's the World Series. It's one of those things like you just want to be able to say that you saw it and that you were part of it.
And it's not any World Series. It's this World Series. It's Chicago. It's the Cubs. It's 71 years. It's 1908. Like, it's one of those things where, like you said, you want to be there. And if one of my best friends is getting married on Saturday, and if he wasn't, I would probably be going to Chicago as well, because this is totally one of those things that is just
I know a guy who's getting married on Saturday too, and he's actually a Cub fan, so I'm curious to see how this works out for him.
Going to be wheeling a TV right into the reception area and checking that out. So what I think you said earlier your prediction, but I missed that. What are you calling for the series on record?
I'll say Cubs in 6.
Cubs in 6. All right, Lucas, what about you?
Cubs in 6.
6. All right. I am going to say Cubs in 5. I think they're going to lose.
Right. I hope you're right, since I'll be there.
Oh, yeah.
Got you. So I think they're going to win game 1. I think they're going to lose game 2. And then I think they're going to get those last 3 at home, which obviously is the one benefit to not having home field advantage. I mean, basketball used to do this with the championship. or it was a 2-3-2. But I mean, man, you steal one on the road and you're setting yourself up pretty. So,
right.
I don't know. We'll see. So, but yeah, definitely appreciate you guys coming on. If there's, I'm sure we'll do a celebration victory video after they clinch this World Series. Knock on wood there. But yeah, go Cubs, and until next time, see you guys.
All right.